China is changing. More than 10 years after the Cultural Revolution and the death of Mao Zedong, the world's most populous country has come crashing into the 20th century. Mao suits are out, miniskirts and blue jeans are in. In Beijing, the pagoda has given way to the high-rise. There is construction everywhere. Next month, the 13th Congress of the ruling Chinese Communist Party will convene to decide the future of economic and political liberalization. China's top leader, Deng Xiaoping, now 83 years old, is expected to give up many of his duties. And the country's future depends on who is named to assume those responsibilities. Today, we'll talk to one of the key figures in that future, Zhao Ziyang, China's premier and the acting head of the Chinese Communist Party. On Meet the Press, Sunday, September 27, 1987. And good morning. I'm Chris Wallace. All this week, NBC News is examining the changing China. And today, we get the view from the top. Earlier this week, NBC's Tom Brokaw conducted an exclusive interview with Premier Zhao, who at age 68 would seem to be Deng's heir apparent. The interview was conducted in a 500-year-old pavilion in the Zhongnan Hai, the area where the Chinese leadership lives in the heart of Beijing. This is the first one-on-one interview that Premier Zhao has ever given to American television.
Premier Zhao, your election as the General Secretary of the Communist Party of China is widely anticipated at the Party Congress in October. Tell us, will the pace of change in China accelerate? Will it stay the same, or will it slow down after the Party Congress?
The keynote of the 13th Party Congress will be reform. At the Party Congress, we will make a summary of our experiences and achievements in the last 9 years. At the Congress, we will also draw up plans for the economic reform and the political structural reform in the future. I think the pace will be quicker, not be slowed down. The people have got the benefits from the reform, and they wholeheartedly support our reform. We will not and should not slow down. Reform is the only way for China's development. We do not have other alternative.
Mr. Premier, Deng Xiaoping says that it is time for younger people to lead China. He has been critical of what he calls ossified thinking. But at the same time, the party has punished those who have spoken out against ossified thinking, those who have been critical of some of the policies of the leadership. I wonder if the Chinese people aren't confused.
By conducting reform and implementing the policy of opening to the outside world, we do not intend to change the socialist system in China. We do not intend to change the system of the leadership by the Communist Party of China. We will criticize those thinkings which are conservative, ossified, and which do not favor reform in China. At the same time, we will also criticize those thinking which maintain that by carrying out reform and opening to the outside world, the socialist system in China should be changed. If there were no leadership of the Communist Party of China, and if there were no socialist system, there would be no stability and unity in the country, and the country would be in a havoc, turbulence everywhere in society. If that happened in China, how could we proceed with our modernization construction?
Mr. Premier, are you worried about losing the influence of the Communist Party on the young people of China? What they know of the Communist Party is the Cultural Revolution and then this recent crackdown on so-called liberal bourgeoisie.
This will depend on whether the policy adopted by the party will achieve results. At the time when the struggle against bourgeois liberalization was launched in last spring, some young people did not understand that struggle. But as a result of the changes in the last 6 months or so, there are more young people who understand this than there were in last spring.
is it possible that after the next party Congress, that those people who have been put in jail for criticizing the policies of the Communist Party and the leadership of this country, that many of those people will be released from jail?
So far as I know, there is no such a case for people to be unfairly treated or even arrested or jailed simply because they have criticized the policies of the party or the leadership. Of course, China has its laws. If people violate the law, it will be another case. Recently, some Communist Party members were expelled from the party, and some others were persuaded to leave the party. They are intellectuals. Maybe there are some people in the United States who view this as a crackdown or oppression of the intellectuals. I do not agree with this. If there is a writer or intellectual who happens to be a Communist Party member, then as an intellectual, he is respected and he can play his role. But as a party member, he is required to observe the party constitution and party program. If he cannot observe the party constitution and party program, he will be asked to leave the party. I don't think this is crackdown.
Premier, I want to ask you about the relations between your country and the United States. I know for a fact that within the current administration there is a great deal of concern that China is selling silkworm missiles to Iran. Are you selling silkworm missiles to Iran?
We have stated repeatedly that China has not sold weapons to Iran, and of course, not missiles. As you know, the international armament market is very complicated. If a country has the money and is willing to offer a high price, there will be no difficulty for this country to find channels in which it can acquire weapons. China has all along been making efforts for an early end to the Iran-Iraq war. China will do nothing which is not conducive to the reconciliation between Iran and Iraq.
I want to be absolutely clear in my own mind, and I think that the American television audience wants to be clear as well. What you're saying is that China has no official policy of selling silkworm missiles to Iran, but there is the possibility that through the international arms market, your missiles may end up in Iran.
China has arms trade with quite a few countries. Up to now, I still do not believe that the missiles Iran has are Chinese missiles Iran has acquired through other channels. Of course, we have taken note of the international reaction in this connection. We will make our efforts to prevent that the weapons China exports will be acquired by Iran or Iraq through other channels.
Mr. Premier, it's been 15 years since the United States and your country established relations once again, since the Shanghai Communique. After 15 years, where do you think those relations must be improved? What troubles you about the relationship between your country and the United States?
It should be said that since the issuance of the Shanghai Communique and the communique between our two countries on the establishment of diplomatic relations, the Sino-U.S. relations as a whole are quite good and stable. In the Sino-U.S. relations, the major obstacle or the greatest difficulty and the thing which we worry about is the question of Taiwan. The Taiwan Relations Act of the United States is always a hidden danger to Sino-U.S. relations. Of course, there is also the trade problem, that is the imbalance of our trade. The United States is deliberating for the adoption of some trade protectionist legislations. It is our hope that the United States will make efforts so as to ensure that we can have a greater cooperation in economic, trade, and technological areas between China and the United States.
Mr. Premier, there is talk that your country and the Soviet Union are about to improve their relations. Do you trust the Soviets?
There has been some improvement in the relations between China and the Soviet Union in the economic, trade, cultural areas, and exchange of personnel between the two countries. The boundary negotiations have already been resumed between the two countries, and generally speaking, the negotiations are proceeding quite well. Of course, the boundary issue cannot be settled overnight, but I think, generally speaking, the progress made so far in this area is pretty good. But there is no change in the political relations between China and the Soviet Union. I think you know this fact. And the improvement of the political relations depends on whether the three major obstacles can be eliminated, especially whether the Soviet Union can urge Vietnam to stop its aggression of Cambodia.
Mr. Premier, as you know, in our country, we know almost everything there is to know about our leaders. We know about their families, where they live, what kind of childhood experiences that they had. And yet, of the Chinese leadership, we know almost nothing about their background because so much of it is conducted in secrecy. Can you tell me, in your case, as the leader of the most populous nation in the world, what there was in your personal background that helped shape your current political values? Could you share that with the American audience?
I was not in the Red Army. I did not participate in the Long March. I joined the army and took the gun in order to oppose the Japanese aggression. My wife is a comrade of arms who was together with me when we fought against the Japanese aggression. She is already retired and she is not very good in health. She stays at home with her grandchildren and raising flowers. She attaches great importance to traditional Chinese medicine and is quite well versed in traditional Chinese medicine. I have 5 children, 4 of them boys, and the youngest child is a girl. In China, we call the girls, each girl as worth 1,000 ounces of gold. Both my wife and I like the girl. Now we have 4 grandchildren, 2 boys and 2 girls, quite balanced.
Mr. Premier, in the United States, as you know, women are taking a much more active role in politics and business and everything else. And I know in this country that women, in the rural areas especially, are very important in China. And yet there are no women in the leadership, and that puzzles the Westerner. Why is that, and will that change?
My impression is that the proportion of women in the leadership at various levels in China is not small. I think the reason why there are not many women in the leadership is because China is a developing country and its culture and education are not very well developed.
Mr. Premier, you spoke out again this week about China and its birth control policies, saying that it is losing the battle against population control in this country.
What I said was that China is about to enter into another baby boom period. This is because of the age structure of the population, because at the time in the 1960s and early 1970s, the population growth was very high in China. And the people who were born in those days are about to enter the marriageable and childbearing periods. this is the reason why China will have another baby boom period. In the urban areas and those areas which are economically speaking quite well developed in China, there is already a good foundation for proceeding with family planning program. The difficulty in proceeding with China's family planning program is in the rural areas, especially in the remote rural areas. And the question there is not each couple only one child, but multiple births, and people get married earlier and give birth to children quite earlier. Therefore, the family control program in those areas is not to encourage each couple to have only one child or to have some way to handle those multiple births, but the question of developing economy and culture.
Premier, I have only two more questions for you. One is, the necktie is a powerful symbol, and everyone in the West noticed that you were the first Chinese leader to wear a Western necktie outside of China. Were you at all criticized by some of your more conservative colleagues within the party leadership?
No criticism. I think the situation is quite good, and in this regard, there will be liberalization. I'm not opposed to those people who are wearing Mao suits, and other peoples also do not oppose me simply because I wear Western suit. But practically speaking, I think it would be even better if one can wear Western suit without wearing a necktie, because it's quite troublesome to wear a necktie.
Let me ask you the final question. Two of your predecessors, Hu Yaobang and Hua Guofeng, who were both the General Secretary of the Communist Party in this country, lost their jobs unceremoniously. Does that make you worry about your own job security?
I haven't given consideration to that. I'm not willing to be the secretary, to be the General Secretary, because I think I'm not that fit to be the General Secretary. I'm more fit to look after economic affairs.
But you are not suggesting, are you, sir, that you're not about to become the General Secretary?
I do not have the say. There is a regulation in the Communist Party of China that the party member should observe the direction from the party. And I think this matter will be finally decided upon by the Chinese National People's Congress.
Mr. Premier, the last thing that I want to do while I am a guest in your country is to get you into trouble with the Communist Party of China. So thank you very much for joining us today on NBC's Meet the Press.